The foundation of almost any athletic movement can be boiled down to one thing: forces being produced into the ground. When we consider this, it suddenly makes something very apparent. While it is vital to train your legs, hips, and core so that you are capable of producing high forces in order to be athletic, if we neglect the actual point where those forces are transferred into the ground, we will have energy leaks and lose a ton of the potential energy we could be utilizing to displace our body through space as quickly as possible. And that contact point I am talking about is your feet. Every time we do pretty much anything, whether it's jumping, sprinting, or changing direction, we are contacting the ground with our feet. We have to make sure our feet are strong enough to handle all those forces, especially when we consider that during an activity like sprinting, forces as high as 3 to 5 times our body weight are put into every single step. And it's really common for athletes to go into the gym and train really heavy squats or deadlifts, but it's a lot less common for them to prepare their feet to handle the shock and impact of every single inevitable impact we're going to have during training and competition. On top of that, weak feet can cause issues all up our kinetic chain. They can lead to improper form and technique, and they can also lead to injuries in areas like the knee and the hip, because all those forces that you're producing during the athletic movements have to go somewhere, and if your feet aren't strong enough to put them into the ground, they're going to end up coming out through your body in some other way. On top of that, people's athleticism is often limited by what their body thinks is safe or dangerous. So for example, if you don't feel safe falling from 30 inches, your body's probably not going to let you jump 30 inches in the air because it doesn't feel that that's a safe position to be in. It's the same exact thing with your feet and any other athletic movement. If you haven't strengthened your feet to the point that they can handle any forces your body can throw at them, your brain will actively limit your output to try to keep you from hurting yourself, and then you won't be able to fully express your athletic ability. It'll be like a built-in braking mechanism until you can get strong enough to handle the forces that you can produce already. So how do we get stronger feet? The first exercise I'm a really big fan of is the Spring Ankle Series by Cal Dietz and Chris Korfist. Those guys are both highly intelligent and successful coaches. The exercise has 5 different key positions with 2 different toe postures, making 10 different variations overall. And they are isometric exercises, which means they are held at a constant muscle length and you're not shortening or lengthening the muscle during the activity. The basic idea is to put the ball of your foot on a raised platform and then hold yourself in place with your heel hanging off of that platform. You can do it in a deep squat position with your heel down or dorsiflexed. You can do it in a deep squat position with your heel up or plantar flexed. You can do it in a medium squat with the heel down or up, and you can do it straight-legged with your heel up, or again in a plantar flexed position. Then we have all those same exercises, but this time around, you want to be pressing your big toe actively into the ground. This is a super important cue for glute activation and proper mechanics all across the board. My general recommendation would be doing these 2 times per week, 1 set of each position, and on one day doing it with your toes pushed into the ground, and the other day keeping your toes more relaxed. Cal Dietz says that he wants all his athletes to be able to hold these positions for at least 60 seconds, so that's the minimum that we want to build up to over time. Then once we hit that goal, we can transition to holding weights in our hands, but we want to drop that time to around 30 seconds per set. The final level is holding in those positions and then having someone pushing down on your shoulders as hard as they can for about 10 seconds. Next, we want to build in tolerance to spring forces in our foot. This can help teach our tendons and fascia to store and release energy properly, which is great for performance and injury prevention. There are about a million different ways you could do this, but my favorite are 2-legged pogo hops for 3 to 5 sets of 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. These have the added bonus of being awesome for your Achilles tendon. On top of that, we have to make sure to build up the sides of our ankles and feet as well. So incorporating some lateral movements or side-to-side movements is really important. I like to keep things simple, so for this, I would suggest just doing a 2-foot lateral hop back and forth over a line. For both of these movements, and really for any plyometric movements, you can regulate the intensity of your sets by changing your footwear and the surface that you're on. If you're wearing shoes and you're in grass, that'll usually be the easiest combination that you can make. Now, in contrast to that, if you're barefoot on hard surfaces, that's going to yield the most possible adaptations, but of course, it's going to be the most dangerous and the hardest on your body. I would suggest starting with a mix and going barefoot on a soft surface like grass, and just seeing how it goes for you, and you can always adjust from there depending on how your body feels. Now, speaking of footwear, going barefoot is fantastic for foot strength and health. I think by now everyone knows that shoes are pretty much terrible for us. They can mess up our range of motion, our functionality, our structure, and the sensory perception in our feet. So the next exercise I would suggest is just going barefoot as much as you can. Or even better, I would suggest getting barefoot shoes so that you can wear them anytime that it's not acceptable to be fully barefoot. I personally have Zero shoes, which I absolutely love, that I've been using for a year or 2 now, and I would highly recommend them. I'm not sponsored, but I'll put an affiliate link for them in the description below if you're interested. I want to mention that it's important not to start doing this too fast if you're not used to it, because you could get things like blisters or overuse injuries that could put you out of training for a short period of time. Just try to slowly build up and do it more and more over time until eventually you're full-time in barefoot shoes. With that being said, I think that actual training, like reps on the track or really hard plyometric exercises, should probably be done in shoes or spikes most of the time. Strength work and low-level plyos are great to do barefoot, but any really intense exercise I think should be done with shoes just to mitigate the risk of injury. But you can just do whatever you feel comfortable with. 2 other things we have to make sure we focus on for our feet are sensory stimulation and motor control, which again are things that we lose due to our usage of of shoes. There's a loose quote from the coach Dan Fichter, which I like a lot, where he says, if you can't feel something, you can't move it. And I think that since feet are so important for our athleticism, that increasing our sensory perception of them is really important. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this, including walking around in grass or turf barefoot, walking around in small stones that aren't sharp, which I love to do but really hurts, or by using a spiky ball like this to roll your foot. I incorporate all of these both into my warm-up and into my daily life, and I think it's yielded good results. Now, in terms of motor control, most of us can't really move our toes individually, myself included, and to improve this weak motor control, the best thing we can do is practice. I learned this drill from Paul Fabritz at PJF Performance, and he's an absolutely fantastic NBA trainer. What you do is squeeze your toes down as hard as possible for a 3 count, then point them up as hard as possible for a 3 count, and then spread your big toe as far away as possible from your little toe for, again, a 3 count. And that's 1 repetition. Another fantastic thing you can do to strengthen your feet is balance drills. It's a great way to work on all sides of the foot and ankle, and also has some great benefits for your stability and your coordination. It's also a type of proprioceptive training, which means, roughly speaking, your body's awareness of where it is in space, which has been shown to be a really effective way of decreasing injuries. So at this point, we've covered some exercises that hit the sides of the ankle and the back, as well as the foot, pretty heavily, but we also have to make sure to hit the front of the shin so that every relevant area is covered. We can do this with tibialis raises, which strengthen the tibialis anterior, which is the muscle that runs along the side of your shin. This muscle plays a big role in deceleration and shock absorption, and is really good for preventing shin splints. If you're interested, I'll have a free PDF linked in the description that takes these exercises and progresses them over a month. But if you want to improve your speed, having weak feet is just one mistake that could be holding you back. So make sure you also check out this video here, where I discuss 5 other mistakes that could be ruining your speed and making you slow, so you can make sure to fix them and improve your performance and your athleticism.